Felix Light is a journalist at the Moscow Times, and he joins me now for more on this story. Felix, what kind of effect is all of this going to have on Navalny's movement?
Well, Jeannie, even though today's decision wasn't unexpected by any means, it really does represent a hammer blow to Navalny's movement. So we've sort of seen this category of extremist quite widely applied in the Russian legal system over the last few years. It's often applied to groups like neo-Nazis and to Islamists. And what it does is it envisions sort of very strict penalties, up to 6 years in prison for anyone involved in any kind of extremist activities whatsoever. And for the Navalny movement, which has really thrived off protest and trying to sort of organize to disrupt elections or to influence elections, this does seem to be a real blow to them. It's very hard to imagine how they can continue to work, how they can continue to even sort of get the word out in Russia under the threat of these kind of legal sanctions, which crucially apply to even ordinary supporters of them in future. So today we've actually seen a number of announcements from sort of local organizations saying this is the end, we can't organize under these conditions. So this does look to be like the end of the Navalny movement as a sort of organized factor in Russian politics, certainly inside the country. Now, many of his senior aides, Navalny's senior aides, are actually outside Russia already, so it's likely we'll see some work sort of continuing from exile. But within the country, the picture does look very bleak, and this is likely the end of the line for Navalny's sort of active street protest movement in future.
Felix, what about Alexei Navalny himself? There had been so much talk about him suffering in jail. What more do we know about the state of his health at the moment?
Well, this news actually comes only about 3 days after Navalny came off his hunger strike in prison. Now, he'd been refusing food for around 3 weeks, demanding to have doctors, his own private doctors, admitted to see him to sort of help him along with his recovery from the Novichok poisoning that he, of course, suffered last August. But sort of his health sort of was almost seen as a bit of a victory for the Navalny movement, in the sense that although his private doctors were not admitted to see him, civilian doctors from outside the prison service were. And at the time, his movement was seeing that almost as a sort of, if not a full victory, then very much the next best thing, an acknowledgement from the Kremlin that Navalny could not be allowed to die in prison. So it is possible that in the next few weeks, as Navalny's health perhaps improves a little bit away from the sort of threat of imminent death, that his star personally will sort of rise a little bit. But outside the prison, the situation does look bleak for his movement, which has really led the sort of anti-Putin, anti-Kremlin movement in Russia for these last 10 years.
Felix, thank you for that. Felix Light, they're reporting for us from Moscow.